Hi everyone, welcome back to a weekly roundup of the polity and governance issues. Let's look at what took place with regard to polity and governance with the week gone by. And so let's look from 14th to 21st of October. What are the important polity and governance issues? Now, polity and governance is a part of every competitive examination, mainly UPSC GS Means Paper 2, and also with regard to APPSC Group 1 and Group 2, TSPSC Group 1 and Group 2 as well. So when you have a weekly roundup of your polity and governance issues, your preparation becomes easy, and one key to success is we just need to keep going on, put in our best efforts and leave the rest to God. So yes, so let's look at some of the issues that made news. First is the very first issue is about a lot of things going up with regard to Supreme Court, because we do not have the session of the Parliament going on right now, and 5 states are going to elections, and we are going to have the general elections next year. So many things related to that, related to abortion. So abortion is has a legal backing in India, but something with regard to rights of fetus that has been upheld by the Supreme Court, and apart from that, certain other important issues as well. So the first one is the electoral bonds issue will be sent to a 5-judge constitution bench, and the Supreme Court has said that electoral bonds case will be sent to a 5-judge constitution bench to start its hearing from October 31st. The petitioners want the decision from the Supreme Court with regard to legality of the electoral bond scheme in the present form before the elections of the Lok Sabha in 2024. Electoral bonds facilitate anonymous donations. So those who donate are anonymous. We do not know the person who is donating to the political parties. The petitioners want the validity of the scheme to be checked by the Supreme Court. Now, the electoral bond scheme was introduced in 2017, and subsequent amendments have been made. It allows for individuals and entities to make anonymous donations to the registered political parties. These bonds can be purchased from SBI during particular times of the year, which are open for a 15-day period, in denominations of 1,000, 10,000, 1 lakh, 10 lakh and 1 crore rupees. Electoral bonds are payable to the bearer on demand and interest-free. Indian citizens, entities established in India can purchase the electoral bonds either individually or jointly, and the electoral bonds are valid for a 15-day calendar year from the date of issue. I told you they are issued from 3 times in a year, and only political parties that are registered can get these donations. Now, the CJI is of the view that that it is very important, and therefore he decided to send it to a constitution bench of 5 judges. The top court is hearing petitions from NGOs like Common Cause and Association for Democratic Reforms, which usually bring out political questions to the fore, and also Congress members as well as the CPIM as well. The center, however, has termed a scheme of electoral bonds as a big step towards electoral reform, which will ensure transparency and accountability on the money that is coming to the political parties. Petitioners have contended that if it affects the transparency because of its anonymity in the political funding. The petitioners have pointed out that it allows the political parties not to disclose the annual contribution reports to the Election Commission of India and the details of their identity from who they are getting the political funding as actually. In April 2019, a 3-judge Supreme Court bench in an interim order had directed the political parties which received the donations through electoral bonds to submit the bonds details to the Election Commission of India. So what exactly are the issues surrounding electoral bonds? What exactly the issues that are being questioned by the petitioners before the Supreme Court? So the court has agreed to focus on 2 important issues with regard to the electoral bonds, that is legalization of the anonymous donations to the political party and the violation of the citizens' right to information about the funding of the political parties promoting corruption. The 2 issues are seen as violation of Article 19, 14 and 21 of the Constitution. The scheme is completely anonymized and sanitized political donations, giving scant information to the public of the donor. The amendments were introduced also to the Companies Act, by which a company could also anonymously do donations to the political parties via the purchase of the electoral bonds, and this in turn actually furthers crony capitalism. So amendments were made to the electoral bond scheme via the Finance Act of 2016 and 17. Both are actually money bills, and this opened a floodgate of unlimited political donation. The amendments removed the cap on the campaign donation by the companies that can be given to the political parties, and it legalized anonymous donations questioned by the companies. Also, it introduced the use of electoral bonds which are exempt from disclosure under the Representation of People Act, opening doors to unchecked unknown funding to the political parties. Now, the Finance Act also amended the FCRA, or the Foreign Contribution Regulation Act, to allow the foreign companies with subsidiaries in India to fund the political parties, effectively exposing Indian politics and democracy to international lobbyists. The FI judgment, however, said that it will not go into the issue of whether the electoral bond scheme amendments to it can be passed to a money bill, because already this is being looked into by a larger bench. And the electoral bonds was passed as a money bill to circumvent the Rajya Sabha. So this is some of the issues that are surrounding the electoral bond scheme, the question, and now this will be decided by the Supreme Court of India. The next most important issue is with regard to the cash question allegation with regard to TMC MP Mahua Moitra. So what exactly is cash question? Now, cash question is nothing but allegedly taking the accusation of taking money for asking questions in the legislature or the parliament, and the MPs face questions and MPs can ask questions to the government of the day. So the questions are usually asked during the question hour on a short notice during a censure motion, no confidence motion, and also during the discussion of the motion of thanks. Now, when an MP takes money to especially ask questions which with regard to the person who has gifted that money, there is allegation of cash questions, and it raises a question on the integrity of the MPs. Now, MP takes money, they can actually put across questions which actually raise doubts or questions regarding the governance of the day, thus making news with regard to government tactics and also giving more weightage to the opposition. MPs raise questions, and I told you, to the question hour, and usually questions can also lead to fall of the government if they are not able to answer these questions in a proper way and also prove them. In 2005, let me tell you, a sting operation was conducted by Cobra Post that showed 11 MPs taking money to raise questions in the parliament, and now it is Nishikant Dubey of the BJP who has claimed that Mahua Moitra has asked questions based on the gifts and the money that was given by Mr. Hiran Andani, who is a competitor of the Adani Group, and she asked questions regarding to the Adani Group in the parliament on the behest of Hiran Andani, who asked her to do so. So Nishikant Dubey actually immediately asked a suspension of Trinamool Congress. He raised the issue of 2005, the cash query scam, in which 11 MPs were suspended in a record of 23 days, and he said that the current situation is no more less than the re-emergence of a cash for query issue, and therefore she should be expelled immediately. The issue has gone to the CBI and also with regard to the ethics committee of the parliament, and it says that it is a breach of privilege of the house. So Nishikant Dubey has said that Hirandani has access to Mahua Moitra's Lok Sabha account, and she was taking questions instantly coming from there and then asking them to the government back to back. So this is what so the complaint now has gone to the ethics panel. Let me tell you that each house has its own committees, and ethics committee is one of the committee which has present both in the Rajya Sabha and the Lok Sabha to look into the privileges and the powers of the MPs if they violate any of them with regard to contempt of the house also. Now, in Lok Sabha, the ethics committee was formed in 2000, and its genesis lays in the presiding officers conference that was held in October in New Delhi in 1996. Each house has its ethics committee, and it was in Lok Sabha, it was first constituted in 2000. Its composition is not more than 15 members who hold a term for not exceeding 1 year at a time, and in Rajya Sabha it was constituted much earlier in 1997. There it has 10 members who are nominated by the chairman of the Rajya Sabha. Same, they do not hold office for more than 1 year. The functions of the ethics committee is to see the moral ethical conduct of the members and to examine the cases that are referred to it, and also other misconduct of the members as well. So this is the issue about regard to cash for query, and also allegations with regard to contempt of the house and misusing of the powers of the MP. So this is the other most important issues with regard to the Supreme Court upholding the rights of the fetus and not the mother this time, when it declined to end a 26-week pregnancy. The Supreme Court declined the permission of a married woman who came knocking at the doors of the Supreme Court saying that she had lactational problem, depression, and she was not in a mental state to take care of the child, where she had already 2 children. The Supreme Court, however, said that the AIMS board report found no fetal abnormalities, and the preterm delivery carried the risk of the child being born with physical and mental deformities, and they cannot do this knowingly and it violates the right of the fetus. The bench said that the pregnancy had crossed the 24-week upper limit, which is given by the Medical Terminacy of Pregnancy Act 1971. So let me tell you that abolition in India is legal under certain circumstances, and introduction with the introduction of the Medical Terminacy of Pregnancy Act 1971, there are legal provisions with regard to this. There was recent amendments also with regard to the MTP Act of 1971. Recently, the Supreme Court ruled that safe and legal abortion should be accessible to all the women irrespective of their marital status, and the fetus having crossed the upper statutory limit of 24 weeks required the report of a board of 2 medical practitioners. And as per the provisions, in case of the fetus exceeds 26 weeks, only it is allowed if it is necessary to save the life of the mother, or if the fetus suffers from any physical or mental abnormalities, and the bench said that the medical reports show neither of this, and therefore the woman of 2 approached the court saying that she was suffering with regard to lactational amenorrhea and depression, and therefore was unwilling to continue with the pregnancy. However, the court questioned her that what was she doing till 26 weeks, while the upper limit of terminating a pregnancy according to the report of 2 medical practitioners under the MTP was 24 weeks, and it crossed the stipulated time, and the fetus was very healthy, there was no deformities, etc. And there was no need to do this right now. The bench, this started all of us, this all started when a 2-bench judge heard the woman and allowed her to go to the pregnancy, but later on they changed the mind because the AIMS report said that there was no problem with the fetus and it was healthy, and indicating a strong possibility of survival. And the matter then was placed at a 3-judge bench. Let me tell you that the MTP Act allows abortion of pregnancy up to 20 weeks by if it is approved by a registered medical practitioner, and up to from 20 to 24 weeks for certain categories of women like survivors of sexual assault or rape or incest. The Supreme Court said that it cannot order the killing of an unborn child who is healthy and has no abnormalities. The Supreme Court said that one option was to let the child be born and the government look after it, and the court underlined that if it goes for preterm delivery or hasty delivery, it may lead to abnormalities of the fetus, and then the child will not be adopted by anyone, risking the life of the child. Therefore, the Supreme Court upheld the right of the fetus to live and not the mother in this case with regard to bodily autonomy. Conducting an abortion without fulfilling the conditions actually is a crime, and usually you cannot conduct abortion after knowing the gender of the female because it is violation of the PCPNDT Act, which with regard to and it is known as female feticide. Let me tell you, one of the conditions for allowing abortion is if the pregnancy interferes with the mental status, but the court in this case said that the woman was totally all right because she did not come before 26 weeks, and now at this point of time coming up with the reason for mental was not the right issue, and it is not even threatening the life of the woman or health of the woman, and also the baby was very, very healthy, and therefore it could not risk the baby's life. This is what the Supreme Court said. The next important issue that really made big headlines this time is the Supreme Court decided on the same-sex marriage, and it said that it cannot legalize same-sex marriage by tweaking the Special Marriage Act, under which the LGBTQ communities were asking for rights to get married, and said that this should be left to the Parliament and the legislatures to decide. The same-sex couples were seeking recognition of their union as legal with regard to same-sex marriage under various acts such as the Special Marriage Act, the Foreign Marriage Act and the Hindu Marriage Act as well. The union government opposed the same-sex marriage. Arguments with regard to right to equality, right to privacy, legal rights and also right bestowed by marriage, and also impact of the children was made by the Government of India to take its stand. The others who opposed the petition include various religious bodies and also the National Commission for the Protection of Child Rights, because they said that this is going to have an impact on the mental on the growth and the mental stability of the child as well. No fundamental right recognizes this. It is not, right to marry does not come under the fundamental right of the Constitution. This is what the Supreme Court has said, and right to marry does not come under the constitutional rights. This is what the Supreme Court said. However, one of the judges recognized the civil union for non-hetero couples as a step towards marriage equality, but the majority of the judges said that they cannot legalize this civil union under the present law, and it will be judicial interference with regard to the legislature or judicial legislation, which it cannot do. The majority view is that the legislature and the parliament is the right body to bring about changes with regard to same-sex act. The bench unanimously agreed that same-sex couples, however, face a lot of discrimination and harassment in their daily lives, and they urged the government to form a high-power committee chaired by the Union Cabinet Committee to expeditiously look into genuine human concerns faced by these partners. The Chief Justice also said that they should look into whether the queer couples could be treated as same members or as the members of the same family for the purpose of ration card, maintenance, opening of a joint account, arrangement of large rights of the the partner, access benefits of rights and benefits of employment as well. Now, let me tell you that according to a human rights campaign, that's the body which represents the LGBTQ rights in United States, it says only 32 countries worldwide recognize same-sex. It includes United States, Canada, Australia, Argentina, South Africa, Taiwan. In 2019, Taiwan became the first Asian country to legalize same-sex marriage, and the legislation was brought in following a court ruling in 2017. So what exactly did the Supreme Court say? Now, the majority verdict says that same-sex couples do not have the right to marry, and transgender persons have the right to marry under the current framework. That is what they say. Same-sex couples have the right to choose their partners, and they have the right to cohabit, that is, stay together. And the other things which was said is that queer couples do not have the right to adopt. They do not have the right to adopt. This was what the Supreme Court said. Couples do not enjoy the right of civil union as well. The court also spoke on other issues like, can the state makes the laws which recognize same-sex marriage? And the Supreme Court said yes, if the states want, they could bring out laws which recognize same-sex marriage. And the other questions which was addressed is the right to form civil unions, the transgender person's rights, the adoption rights, and the entitlement on the natal family, violence protection on sex, gender, and discrimination. However, I cannot go into each of these now because it's limited. I have limited time, and I need to just brush up with regard to polity and governance issues of this week. So maybe in the next post, I'll touch up on all these parts as well. And the next most important issue is the National Film Awards, which is the highest and the most prominent film awards in the country, origin in 1954, and is given by the Directorate of which is administered by the Directorate of Film Festivals since 1973, along with the International Film Festival of India and the Indian Panorama was given this week by our President Draupadi Murmu. This is the 69th National Film Awards, and every year it is a national panel appointed by the government which selects the winning entry, and the award ceremony is held in New Delhi, where the President gives out these awards. The President gave away the 69th edition of the awards. The famous and the prestigious Dada Saheb Phalke Award was given to Wahida Rehman on this occasion. And recently the government has taken a lot of steps with regard to film industry. It brought about the Cinematography Act to help curb piracy, and it is also working on the AVGC sector as well, making India a most prominent film destination of the world. In 5 years, it says that India will be among the leading quality content producing nations across the globe. So just not only a movie shooting of the films of year, but also the back-end activity like editing, your graphics, etc. It wants to make India the brains behind the whole film industry of the world, I would say. Government policies are helping the media and the entertainment ecosystem to generate almost US $53 million annually by 2025, and it says that India will become the biggest influencer economy from the days to come. And Kriti Sanon and Alia Bhatt were given the National Film Award for Best Actress category. Allu Arjun, the very first time from South Indian, he became the Best Actor Award for Pushpa. He was the first Telugu star to bag the award in the history of National Film Awards. Madhavan, who turned a director with Rocketry, The Nambi Effect, bagged the National Award for Best Feature Film, while Nargis Dutt was awarded for the Best Feature Film on National Integration, and Kashmir Files also got its due. The other one is the committee on the age of marriage was given an extension. The government was looking to bring on par the marriageable age of women on par with men, that is 21 years. However, it's still not resulted into finality. It is still awaiting fulfillment. So the Prohibition of Child Marriage Amendment Bill 2021 was introduced to the Lok Sabha in December 2021, and then again it was referred to a standing committee on education, women, child, youth and sports. The parliamentary committee was now given an extension which seeks to increase the marriageable age of women from 18 to 21 years, and in the past too the committee has given extensions before finalizing its report. The government is seeking to bring the marriageable age on parity with men. Now, according to the National Family Health Survey of 5, which was conducted in 2019 and 21, women in the age group of 20 to 24 years who were married before the age of 18 were 14% in the urban areas, 27% in the rural areas. Women who were married from 15 to 19 years and were already mothers were 3% in the urban areas and 7.9% in the rural areas. In the 19th century, the marriageable age for women used to be 10 years and 15 years from 1949 onwards. In 1978, the amendment was passed under the Child Marriage Restraint Act to increase the marriageable age of women to 18 years, and in 2006, Government of India enacted the Prevention of Child Marriage Act to replace the Child Marriage Restraint Act with a motto of abolishing of child marriage. While it has been 44 years since the Anti-Child Marriage Act has come in, the primitive practice still continues in many places in India. And according to Prime Minister Modi, the main aim for legal marriage is to empower the girls and to build their careers. However, several experts fear that the proposed legislation might end up to be futile and counterproductive. The arguments are that just mere changing the age will not help to deal in maternal mortality rate or infant mortality rate. Arguments between a woman and a future in-laws over continuation of the studies will increase. The in-laws might say that the government has already extended the marriageable age, and now that you need one more year to finish your college, several girls might decide to get married early to get rid of the violent homes who would actually treat them as a burden. They might consider marriage as a freedom. However, with regard to implementation law, the situation might change. If a woman can vote at 18, why then choose a life partner at 21? This is what another argument says. So if you look at laws around the country, for every eligibility, 18 years is taken as a cutoff. Then why for marriage 21? This is contrary to every legal right in the country. That is another argument. Be it the age of consent or the right to choose an abortion, Indian laws have allowed women to do so at 18, and now why increase the age of marriage? This is what to say. Centers move to raise the legal marriage of the age, saying it will be ineffective in preventive child marriage and instead would escalate the instances of female feticide and unwed mothers as well. According to experts, this pressure to educate the young girl until 21 among the poor families has increased, and therefore this will lead to increase in sex selective abortion. This is what the experts and the arguments against the act says. The other most important issue is the Supreme Court is going to refer the aspects of the PMLA verdict to the Constitution bench. Now, Supreme Court has agreed to revisit its own judgment in 2022 upholding the Prevention of Money Laundering Act and refer to a larger bench. The Supreme Court will consider the arguments in favor of the Supreme Court appeared inclined to consider arguments in favor of referring the 2022 judgment of the court in Vijay Madan Lal Chaudhary versus the Union of India to a Constitution bench of 5 judges. The judgment upholding constitutionality of the Prevention of Money Laundering Act delivered by a 3-judge bench of Kanvilkar, who actually has retired, is seen as controversial and adversely affects the citizens' fundamental right, and that is why they are asking to reconsider the PMLA verdict. The review jurisdiction, let me tell you that the Supreme Court in the Vijay Madan Lal Chaudhary and Union of India actually upheld many other things like the power of the Enforcement Directorate to arrest in money laundering cases, which is being challenged. It upheld various contested provisions of the PMLA on the ground that the provisions have a reasonable nexus with the object sought to be achieved by the act in preventing money laundering. This is what to say. PMLA, or the Prevention of Money Laundering Act, is an act to prevent money laundering and to provide for confiscation of the property derived from money laundering. The Enforcement Directorate's power to issue summons under the Prevention of Money Laundering Act does not include the power to arrest. This is what one of the arguments says, and therefore the Supreme Court has agreed to revisit its own judgment under a review jurisdiction and also curative jurisdiction as well. So review jurisdiction enables the court to correct its errors on the face of the record, while the curative jurisdiction enables a litigant to challenge a judgment of the court on the ground of violation of natural justice. The next most important issue is we have been hearing a lot about constitutional benches. So what exactly is a constitution bench? The Supreme Court, we know, is the highest Indian judicial system apex court. As a guardian of the Constitution, it protects the fundamental rights and also the liberties of the people. Now, whenever a matter of law arises which requires the provision of the Constitution to be interpreted and there is significant legal question involved, it is decided by a bench of at least minimum of 5 judges of the Supreme Court, and such a bench is called as the Constitution bench. And Constitution benches have decided some of the most important cases like the Menaka Gandhi case, the Kedarnath case, and the largest bench has been on the Kedarnath judgment case, which decided on the basic structure of the Constitution in the year 1973. Now, the centre is also the other most important issues with regard to appointments of the High Court judges. The centre has notified 16 High Court judges. The appointment recently, there has been a issue with regard to appointments, the delay by the centre after the names have been given by the Supreme Court. Article 222 of the Constitution says that the President can consult the Chief Justice of India and transfer a judge from one High Court to another within the territory of India. The President holds authority to transfer the judge from one High Court to another. Appointments are made by the President of India, higher judiciary appointments, after consulting the Chief Justice of India, that is a collegium. The Supreme Court brought to fore the delay by the Union government, especially with regard to processing the collegium's recommendation with regard to appointments and transfers. As of October 1st, 2023, there are 347 posts of High Court judges are lying vacant in 25 High Courts across the country with a total strength of 1,114. The vacancy translates to more than 31% of the total strength. And the Supreme Court took up the contempt plea, complaining about the inordinate delay by the centre in processing the collegium's recommendation. The court observed that the collegium's recommendation cannot remain in limbo, emphasizing that instead of sitting on them, the government is either notify the appointments or at least send them back, citing specific objections. The next most important issue is with regard to panel of simultaneous elections. Now, the panel on simultaneous elections, which is chaired by our former President Ramnath Kovind, has invited the Law Commission, which is headed by Rituraj Avasti, to come and discuss with regard to simultaneous elections. So, synchronizing all the assembly elections with the Lok Sabha elections would involve reducing or even extending the tenure of some of the assemblies. The Law Commission will share its roadmap with the Kovind-led panel on October 25th. The Law Commission is saying to explore the idea of common electoral roll for the Lok Sabha, for assemblies, for local bodies in order to reduce the cost and use of manpower. It will also try to ensure that the voters do not go to polling stations more than one to cast their vote for both polls. The centre had notified the panel to discuss the feasibility of holding simultaneous elections across the country, sparking the debate of far-reaching impact on politics, constitution and also federalism. It will look into how simultaneous elections can be held to the Lok Sabha, state assemblies and the municipalities and panchayat, and this may be in the year 2029, and for this case they might extend the tenure of certain assemblies as well. The chain of simultaneous elections was continuous still after the independence till 1967, after which certain state assemblies were dissolved in 1968 and 69. Also, dissolution of the Lok Sabha prior in 1970 led to disruption of simultaneous elections. Niti Aayog in 2016 co-authored a paper noted separate elections lead to massive recurring expenditure as well as prolonged deployment of forces. It suggested holding elections in 2 cycles with an interregnum of 30 months each. It pegged that the cost of election polls comes to 4,500 crore, while the Lok Sabha polls alone is 3,870 crore. The Standing Committee on Lok Sabha House said that elections could be held in 2 phases. Polls to some assemblies can be held in the Lok Sabha midterm and the remaining assemblies could be held at the end of the Lok Sabha term. Law Commission in 1999 said holding simultaneous polls would be ideal, but a working formula is required to be in the Constitution. The holding of separate election to assembly should be an exception and not a rule. And the law panel report in 2018 said that simultaneous polls do not alter the balance of power between the union and the states with regard to federalism. And recently 26 crore Pradhan Mantri Ayushman Jan Arogya Yojana cards have been given, and with regard to the completion. So there was recently a function held with regard to commemoration of this, called as Arogya Manthan, and 2 years of Ayushman Bharat digital mission. So the scheme makes health accessible to the people. Kerala won the award for the highest number of treatments in the state, while Meghalaya topped the state with in the small category, Puducherry in the union territory category. With regard to gender equity in service delivery, Karnataka, Meghalaya, Jammu and Kashmir in the large state, small state and the union territory respectively. A total of 26 Ayushman Bharat cards have been given under the Ayushman Bharat Pradhan Mantri Jan Arogya Yojana, which is a flagship scheme being implemented by the National Health Agency and provides a health cover of 5 lakh rupees per family for secondary and tertiary health care. And the ministry added that to reach out to the last mile, now the ministry has also launched the Ayushman Bharat app. So this is what, so 4 crore Ayushman cards, Uttar Pradesh tops the list. However, recently Ayushman Bharat has not been held without any issues. The CAG has brought to fore many of the issues with regard to Ayushman Bharat in the report titled states reported maximum number of cases like Chhattisgarh, Haryana, Jharkhand, Kerala and Madhya Pradesh. Patients shown dead were actually getting treatment under the Ayushman Bharat Jan Arogya Yojana, and were linked to the same mobile number. This was brought out by the CAG. There were lapses in beneficiary validation, shortcomings in claims handling, and also lapses by the state health authorities as well. These are some of the issues brought out with regard to the CAG, and this is a roundup of the polity and governance issue for the week gone by, that is October 14th from till 21. And I hope this was really helpful to you all. I will be covering the economy issues in my next post, and until then, it's very happy learning.